Canberra Live with Leon Delaney. Money Matters with Luke Smith from Envision Financial Services.
Just when you think winter is almost over.
Oh, it's cheeky, isn't it?
Isn't it just? Yeah, -3 Sunday morning, but that's okay. It'll fine up to a sunny day on Sunday with a top of 17, looking good. And it should stay like that for a couple of days as well. You've got a fascinating topic today. Now, I must admit, I have heard this expression before because you are fond of wheeling this one out. But today, you have made it the topic for the entire program.
Yes.
And this is that expression,
It is.
a mini won't pull a horse float.
Exactly right.
The question, of course, is what exactly do you mean by that?
And you know what? I thought I'd talk about this one today because I've had 3 people come in the office this week and tell me, I don't have a Mini, but I really like them. And I think maybe it had been lost on them, like I was a car guy or something like that. And really, for some context, what I mean is, when I say a Mini won't pull a horse float, is we buy a car for specific reasons. Tradies generally drive utes because what do? They put lots of equipment in the back so they can drive to our house and charge us exorbitant prices.
And they can afford to buy the ute.
Which
is generally an extremely expensive piece of equipment.
Exactly right. And we know that most Uber drivers have something relatively fuel efficient.
Yes.
Electric, hybrid, because they want to get as many kilometres out of a tank of juice as possible because they're on the road all day.
And they have a nice, comfortable sedan car that people can enjoy being a passenger.
Exactly. So what I'm saying here with this analogy is we buy cars for the right reasons. So we need a super fund for our retirement for the right reasons. And when I say a Mini won't pull a horse float, we're not saying we don't like Minis. Just like if you come to me with a very limited super fund and say something like, I need to control my income in retirement. I want to maximise the dividends from shares. I really want to maximise the use of franking credits. And I want a really, really good investment menu so that I can buy exchange-traded funds, converting preference shares and listed shares because I really like this, this and this. If you're in a generic industry fund with very, very few options, it's not the right vehicle for you. Now, I'm not saying, boo, that one's bad. I'm just saying you've come to me and said, I want A, B, C, D and E. Now, if you're in a fund that doesn't offer any of those flexibilities, I would say it's not the right fund for you. In a similar vein, people come in and say, I really want to move a commercial building into my super, or I want to use my super to buy the building off myself, which a lot of self-employed people like doing because it's part of their broader business operation in some situations. If you want to do that, you must go down the road of a self-managed super fund because any other super fund cannot buy or require that type of asset. So if that's your strategy, that says to me, a self-managed super fund is the appropriate vehicle in that situation. Now, whether you like them or don't like them, it doesn't matter. If I need to do X, what will let me achieve that outcome? So when I say a Mini won't pull a horse float, I'm not saying that this fund's better than this fund, that fund's better than that fund. It's about saying, what are the things that are the most important to you in retirement? And let's get an investment vehicle that gives you those controls. Because ultimately, control equates to peace of mind. It's not about saying, does this one achieve more than that one? But I think you're crazy to give up franking credits, to give up dividends, to give up access to diversification at a time when you need it the most to fund the way that you want to live and protect the longevity of your capital.
So a Mini won't pull a horse float, and your typical standard everyday basic industry super fund won't offer the same degree of flexibility that a different type of fund might be able to offer you. How do you decide which one is the most appropriate for you? Because it's not just an either or, is it? There's a range of different types of funds that you could be looking at.
Exactly right. So you might be in an industry fund, and again, we're not saying that they're bad. I'm just saying that when people come to me, I want to be able to control their tax position. Now, an industry fund is taxed at a fund level, okay? An industry fund does not pay dividends. It's a unitised fund. So at the start of the year, if you're in the balanced option, you start with $1 a unit. And at the end of the year, depending on total performance of income and capital, they go, it's worth $1.10, $1.20, $1.30, $6, $5, whatever it may be. It'd be like buying an investment property and only showing the value in the market price of the house and adding the rent into the value of the property. People buy an investment property and then use the income to pay for an agent, to pay for rates and taxes and whatever else it may be, so that they can see the value of it go up over time. Well, when you think about it, your super is very similar. We need to generate a good income stream from dividends. That will fund a lot of your pension drawings to meet lifestyle cost. And you might have a small gap between the income that's received and the total that you need, where you would take that out of capital. So you want to be in a fund that is taxed at a member level. Okay, so in your fund, not the fund's total position, which happens with an industry fund. You have no control over franking credits in an industry fund. So whatever happens across whatever option you're in generically, it's applied across the total units in the option that you're in. In a retail super fund or in a self-managed super fund, the franking credits are returned to you as cash from the ATO. So if you've got a significant asset base and you've selected assets that generate a really high level of distributable income from Australian shares and you get franking credits, you're giving up potentially thousands of dollars of money from the ATO in pension phase that is not reflected to the same commensurate level in an industry fund. So a mini won't pull a horse float. A master trust or an industry fund is taxed differently to a retail super fund. The income in an industry fund is different to that of a master trust, of a retail super fund or an SMSF. The investment menu is different. So what you can choose to invest in and how you control what you do is different to a retail super fund or an SMSF. So it comes back to saying, I walk into the dealership, what are the things that I really like? I walk into someone like me and I say, what are the things that are important to you when you're completely reliant on this money? I want A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, let's find a fund that gives you those controls. Because if you think about it, and there's a few dealerships near my office, if you think about it, not controlling the vehicle that you use is like going to Goodyear, grabbing a tyre, walking into someone like BMW, dropping the tyre down on the table and saying, what does that fit on? They'd probably go, well, that half of the showroom's out. Oh, but I really like that one. Yeah, but you've brought me a 20-inch wheel. It's a 22-inch wheel. If you think about that, that's exactly what you're doing with your superannuation. What are the outcomes that I'm after, but what are the controls I'm missing out on because I haven't got the right vehicle? You want to come and say, what's my strategy? What's my structure? And then what are my investments? Because you can want to buy something all you want, but if your fund doesn't allow it because it's not on the approved product list, you just can't buy that type of investment. And we see things start to evolve. You know, we've seen the introduction of ETFs in the crypto space, and some funds allow it and some funds don't. If someone doesn't allow it, that doesn't mean it's not a good fund. It's just not giving you the things that you want to use. So we've always got to come back and say, a mini won't pull a horse float. We're not saying we don't like minis. We're saying a specific car has a specific purpose. A specific super fund has specific features. And for me, it's those features in retirement that help people achieve an element of peace of mind and control that can then equate to greater income distribution, longevity of capital, etc., that I think people miss the point of, assuming that all super funds are the same, and they are fundamentally really, really different.
Now, a lot of people might have a smaller nest egg in their super. Others will have a larger amount. It could be anywhere between a couple of $100,000 and a couple of $1 million. Yep. So does the level of your balance have any influence over your choice of what type of super fund is most appropriate?
Look, yes, I would say yes, it does, because while something can be a wonderful vehicle, at what cost? Now, I could also say you wouldn't buy a Ferrari to deliver bread, because they're not that fuel efficient, evidently.
Well, you know, and there's only so many loaves you can fit in the passenger seat, yes.
Exactly right. So to come back to that is, Self-managed super fund, wonderful, wonderful vehicle, and probably the most flexible structure available in retirement. But would you open one up for $200,000 or $300,000? No, because when you look at the cost to run it against the benefits that you get, it doesn't line up. In that situation, you might say, well, with 200 to 500, I'll go to a personal super fund, which has a very broad investment menu, the ability to control dividends and income and tax. That could be a nice hybrid in the middle. Industry fund for lower balances or less engagement or less care or less interest, fine. They're not going to do you any damage. But, at 30-something, you're not overly fussed about what's happening potentially. And they have a purpose. Self-managed super fund, wonderful vehicle, very, very cost effective for larger balances or for specific investment controls or estate planning and that age where you're 60 plus with the pension options available to you, plus the potential for super contributions, part-time work, and to manage estate affairs, wonderful vehicle. Over $1 million, I think they're probably the cheapest option available in the open market. And then your personal super fund space comes back to that mid-range balance where people are engaged, they want to maximise franking credits, they want to control their income. And it's a very cost-effective way of doing it because you can open up a personal super fund at no cost. A self-managed super fund has a fee to create it because of the legality of the structure. But once it's up and going with larger balances, it's probably the cheapest vehicle to run. So the balance and the capital you're working with, either as an individual or part of a couple, will have a direct impact on what is best. But people will also pay more for control.
Yes.
Even with a smaller balance. Like I said, with I want to get my building into super. Okay, we're going down the self-managed super fund road. Even if you said, well, I want to buy this share, and this share, it might be personal super or SMSF, and people are willing to pay for the peace of mind of that control to get the features that they want.
Luke Smith from Envision Financial is with me in the studio today, and we're posing the very interesting question, what does it mean to say a mini won't pull a horse float? Well, I think you've got a pretty good idea by now, but we'll come back with more to wrap it up in just a moment. Seven minutes to 5 now. Luke Smith from Envision Financial is with me in the studio today, and we're asking, why won't a mini pull a horse float? Because it wasn't designed to.
Exactly.
What do people need to remember, Luke?
Well, I think you need to look at your fund and consider the things that are important to you, either along your working journey or as you approach retirement. What are the things that cause you concern or would give you peace of mind around how you're going to fund the way that you live? I'd be looking at, does the fund that you're in give you the ability to control income? Do you get dividends from the investments that you hold? Can you maximise the use of franking credits from your portfolio? Do you have a really broad investment menu? Can you buy exchange traded funds and listed shares? And that's not to say that you're using them to manage your asset allocation. You're also using them as a function of cost. So when you acquire a share, you pay brokerage, but it costs you nothing to hold it. When you use an exchange-traded fund, you could get an exposure to the S&P 500 at 0.04%. Now, if you're in a general balanced option, you're paying 0.5% or more just to be in it. So if you can sharpen up your investment costs by having a broader menu, not only do you get greater control and diversity, you also get lower annual fees. So it's important that you look at these things for the right reason. Is your fund cost effective? Can you control your exposure to specific assets? What if you want to hold 30% of your assets in Macquarie Bank, for example? Would your fund let you do that? And can you buy that asset? If you can't, it's not to say that fund's bad. We just need to be in something that gives you the flexibility that you're after. Can you actually then make sure that you can fund yourself with dividends and income from investments in retirement if you start a pension? If the answer is no, that might be a deal breaker for you. So we're always evaluating the feasibility of the fund that you're in and what are other things that are out there, because we have to remove this assumption that they are all the same, because they are not, because as we know, cars have different features, cars have different purposes, and you need to get something that is going to meet your needs. You want to go fast? Buy something that goes fast. You want to pull big stuff? Get something that'll pull big stuff. But something that pulls big stuff is generally not fast. And something that's fast generally won't pull big stuff. So we can't have them crossing over into different purposes without having a clear understanding ourselves of what is important to me and can I get it in the vehicle that I'm using.
You know, first thing I'm going to do if I win the Powerball is I'm going to buy a Ferrari and deliver bread in it. I'll bring it right to your front door.
What, you'd be the happiest bread delivery person in Australia, wouldn't you?
Yeah, dear.
It'd be the fastest
delivery. That's right. I'll bring you some freshly baked baguettes from Paris or something like that. Indeed.
Love it.
Luke, where can listeners get more information?
Yeah, so office number 6260-4749. I think we've got a few spots left for the balance of this calendar year, as crazy as that sounds. We've got envisionfinancial.com.au on the internet. That's Envision with an E. We've got the podcast, The Strategy Stack, at Luke Talks Money on iTunes and Spotify. And we've got Envision Financial Canberra on YouTube, where you can subscribe, see us on the phone. You don't have to read anything. And we've got a back catalogue of all of our shows. And all of these types of considerations are a specific chapter in Smart Money Strategy, your ultimate guide to financial planning, available everywhere.
Indeed it is. And today is the last Friday of August, so it's not too early to start thinking about Christmas stocking stuffers.
We're getting there.
Indeed. Thanks very much.
See you next week.
Luke Smith from Envision Financial, back again at the same time next Friday right here on 2CC.